I just got like the scores. You can see the graded pages from Rich. For this piece that he wrote like 1 billion years ago.
Okay.
And we do it every Christmas. And so during the break, I just scanned every page in the four score.
Perfect.
So
Yeah. This is very similar, of course, because this is a Windows tablet, so you can't get a 4-score for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I use Macs for a lot. I mean, like, my primary laptop is a Mac. I've got an iPhone, I've got Apple Watch, but I've never been big on actual tablets. But this is a full Windows machine. So
oh, wow.
It wasn't like just, it wasn't like just getting a tablet, like a Samsung tablet or an iPad. Yeah, because if I want to use this to do a little more, I can, and I have.
Yeah.
It gives me a little more flexibility.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why, I'm not a big fan of a tablet, I don't know why.
Just
me personally. So.
Yeah. Initially, I didn't get it, and now I use the iPad more than I use it now.
Oh, okay.
You know, but again, if I have a real app that I need, you know, and I'm doing a lot of stuff on the keyboard and whatever.
Because this just attaches with magnets.
Yep.
Like that, and I'm all set.
Right. And so I do that as well, but again, a lot of times it's just nice to just have it just a screen.
Yeah.
And as I get older, my vision isn't as good. I like having a big screen, and I love just being able to do this to then get the text bigger.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It gets spoiled.
Yeah.
Oh sure. And I found, like, say, when I do, you know, just spreadsheet and stuff for, you know, just for taxes and just all of the income, you know, I find it, for me, it's easier to do it on the iPad.
Really?
Just, yeah, just where I can just put that all in, and then if I need, again, the keyboard, it's cool to just, and the way, and actually the app is set up so that, you know, for me, it's like, okay, change the date. It's almost more intuitive. So
that's great.
Yeah. Do you use Finale or anything?
I use a newer thing. It's called MuseScore.
Right. Okay. And then is that somewhat open source or whatever they call it?
It is open source. It's completely free, and it has in the past year or 2 or 3 really improved to the point where it's. I always used to use Sibelius.
Right.
I never used that. I never used Finale. That was one of the earlier big ones. But MuseScore at this point does almost everything, if not everything, that commercial products do.
No, I know some of the, you know, some somewhat younger percussionists that I know, like, just absolutely swear by it. It's like, man, this thing is rocking. And again, and then they can use it with your students. They can recommend it because you don't have that big buy-in. And then as it is, Finale like closed the door. So.
Did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know Sibelius several years ago had been sold to another company, and then it sort of stagnated in development. Whereas MuseScore is under continuous, vibrant development.
Right.
So it's constantly being updated.
So what they've done is for people in Finale, they're recommending that they go to, is it Dorico, whatever it is.
I think I've heard of that too.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called.
And so it's the parent company is Steinberg, but supposedly
it's the developers from Sibelius.
Right.
Who
Exactly.
I read about this stuff.
So,
yeah.
And actually, I think one of the big things that people didn't like about Sibelius was that he put was it rhythm and then notes or something, but whatever it was.
I used to use that on one of its earlier versions, and I never got around to upgrading. So I didn't use it in its more recent versions.
Right. But they've updated it so that you can you've got more.
But MuseScore. Input for that, they make it possible to very quickly enter music with a regular computer keyboard. It's very quick.
Yeah.
It's very. I mean, once you learn all the shortcuts.
Right.
It works very well. So anyway, I'm gonna go get this stuff out of the way. So. Have a good lunch, David. I did. Thank you. Yeah. Go back to Cedar Falls? We did, yes. Yeah, we went to February. I think a couple of places. Well, second was not. They recommended. What is this? Don't you talk? Anywhere. Anywhere. What's that? No, that's for audience
sometimes I'm kind of like, I'm kind of making it very legato.
I did not see the video.
You press it. That's right.
And C8. And was there something else?
I feel like that is lower than it was.
Yes, because you're having a conflict with Saturday. Do you want to do a regular?
Yeah.
I think I'm started, right? Whatever this guy says to go. Right there. Oh, I guess I do need a mic. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Montezuma Audubon Center. My name is Brian Stratton. I am the director of the New York State Canal Corporation. And on behalf of all of us at the Canal Corporation and the New York Power Authority, our parent organization, I am thrilled to be with you today at the Montezuma Audubon Center. Now, I know what you're thinking, canals, right? Where's the canal here? Certainly all those telescopes and cameras are not focused on historic canals. No, we're in the middle of a beautiful Audubon Center, but there is a very strategic connection between the Montezuma wetlands and the history of the Erie Canal, and it is an ongoing relationship. It's not only talking about the past, but we're talking about the future and preserving this beautiful treasure that we have here. The Canal Corporation, in partnership with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, recently completed the enhancement of 180 acres within the Montezuma Wetlands Project. And this project improved the habitat for native plants and animals that live here by reconnecting the waters of the Seneca River to this part of the wetlands. And importantly, we also removed and replaced invasive plants with those that will support native birds and animals here in the wetlands. And it's all part of keeping this beautiful, magnificent center going. And if you don't know already, the Montezuma wetlands are an important stop along the Atlantic flyway as birds migrate north and south. This is the big travel plaza for them. You know, they stop in, refuel, rest, and stay here, and we are the ones that actually benefit by seeing this. The Montezuma wetlands have been an important resource of both animals and humans for thousands of years. People have used and manipulated the water here in many ways over many generations. And from the early 1800s, beginning about 1820, when the first Erie Canal was dug, between Albany and Buffalo, they began construction here on the Montezuma Swamp section. And we are not far from where the original Erie Canal was, and the enlarged canal and the barge canal. But it was a very challenging process, digging through a swamp. In fact, they found out that it was so wet here that they found that they were actually better off coming back during the winter and digging the land then. But as a result of the construction and the reconstruction of our canal system between 1820 and then again in 1905, when the barge canal was dug, there were some changes here. So we want to improve that, to reconnect the water for the habitats. This is a small but hopeful step that we can use our knowledge and our tools to reconnect these environmentally important systems. And all of this brings us to the reason why we are here today, and that is to hear the wonderful music and the stories and the performances of the Albany Symphony Orchestra. This is only a slice, a small part of the Albany Symphony. And if you're like me and you live in Albany and in the capital region, you have heard the music, you have heard all of the transformations and all of the beautiful performances of our wonderful Albany Symphony Orchestra. But they have a road show, they have a tiny desk concert, and that is what we are doing today, and we're going to tell you more about that. The ASO, the Albany Symphony Orchestra, is led by our very good friend, Maestro David Allen Miller. David Allen Miller. Sorry, Maestro, I've corrected myself. He is not only a musical genius, even better, he's a canal fan. You know, hard to get both in one. I mean, it's like, how lucky can you get? The Albany Symphony's performance today is part of a series of concerts that we have commissioned with the ASO to help us celebrate a very important milestone in our state and our nation's history, and that is next year when we celebrate the 200th anniversary of the opening of the Erie Canal, which, by the way, never stopped. It opened in 1825. It was rebuilt 3 times, and it kept on going. If you were lucky enough and you were living for hundreds of years, you could travel the Erie Canal from 1825 and never stop, and still be on it today. Although we closed last week, so that's an important nuance. We are also pleased to be partnering with the Montezuma Audubon Center in collaborating on this event, and they are our official host today. So Montezuma, thank you. We have also worked with them in our On the Canals program, which offers free opportunities for people to get out on the canal to recreate, and not during the summer, just during the summer, but during the winter too. And I have been out here on a very cold but brisk but absolutely beautiful January afternoon for one of our On the Canals wildlife bird tours. It had nothing to do with the canal, although I'm sure the birds were probably flying over the canal, but it is a beautiful sanctuary. So we are happy to be back today, and we are also happy to know that Montezuma is also going to partner with our On the Canals accessibility education program that will continue to ensure that these remarkable opportunities remain open and accessible for everyone, for people with or without disabilities. We kicked off the concert series, and this is a 3-year program. We kicked it off earlier this summer and fall in the canal communities of Lockport, Little Falls, Schoharie Crossing State Historic Site. And yesterday afternoon, the ASO played in their most compact performance venue ever inside a Erie Canal powerhouse, which are absolute treasures, and they're very, very small. You probably are in a mansion in this room compared to where you were yesterday, David. But it is wonderful. And again, we go back to the theme of these are tiny desk concerts. So these are compact performances, and this is just a segment, a small segment of the wonderful Albany Symphony Orchestra that will go back home and play in the Palace Theater and play in the Troy Music Hall, MPAC, and all these wonderful venues. And I'm looking forward to the holiday season, but and when they play holiday music, but we're going to be going over. So again, we will be programming into 2025 when we are 200 years old, and then we're going to go into 2026, which in itself is a very important year because 2026, of course, is the nation's semi-sesquicentennial. I've practiced that, and I've hit that right out of the park. So. These concerts are part of the larger Erie Canal bicentennial, and they are built around the theme of reframing history, more voices. And the ASO concert series will reframe the traditional narrative of the canal to elevate more voices and the untold stories of the canal to present a more inclusive history and the future of the canal. The Albany Symphony Orchestra partnered with us in 2017 when we began celebrating the bicentennial because the construction began in 1817, so we like to have parties as long as we can carry them forward. So we began celebrating in 2017, and the Albany Symphony Orchestra went all over the state playing, and it liked it so much that it wanted to come back for 1825, for 2025 to celebrate 1825. And David said, why play for one season when we can play for three? So we're going to be starting off this year and going forward. And there's a lot more information about the composers, the original composers, and the purpose of what you are going to hear. I'm not going to try to explain that, but rather turn it over to our maestro, David Allen Miller. David.
Champion. Hi, everybody. We're going to basically play and then we'll talk, but we're going to essentially play this piece 3 times with some explanation in between. We're capturing it for future dissemination and also a live stream today. So here is Juhi Bansal's Refuge. Thank you. So that's our beautiful piece for the day. Isn't that magical? Yeah, very much inspired by this magical place that we're in. So just, again, a shout out to Brian and his amazing team, to Angela and Chandler, to Joelle as well from Canals and Power Authority, who've really made this partnership possible for us. And of course, great thank you to all of you who are involved with this beautiful bird sanctuary here. We're so delighted to play in your gorgeous acoustic and to be able to come out and experience beautiful Western New York. I have to say it's been very magical, not only being here in the park, of course, but we've been staying basically in Seneca Falls. And even today at lunch, we were wandering around into the Wesley Chapel and into the National Women's Center. And incredible weekend to be there. Just a beautiful, beautiful place, and a place filled, of course, with really significant, important American history. So we're delighted to be in this beautiful part of the country and hope to come back. As Brian said, we'll be doing more programming. We're hoping to be in Seneca Falls most probably this July. So I hope you'll all look for that as well. So this is a piece by Juhi Bansal, who is an American composer who born and raised in Los Angeles of Indian ancestry and lives there, and actually went to USC and got a master's, I think a doctorate at USC. Unfortunately, because we've had our composers with us on this journey through these 5 pieces, Juhi is an avid athlete and surfer, as well as hiker and various other things, and had sustained some very serious back injury within the last year, had some surgeries, and so was unable to come be with us. So I'm sort of her spokesperson. I asked her if she would, in addition to her beautiful statement on the page you have about the piece, explaining the piece, she would give us kind of a new, kind of slightly updated description or a bit of kind of a little bit of background or backstory. So the way we had approached this was we went to these 5 beautiful composers who have very diverse and different backgrounds and come from very interesting places. We had an Argentinian composer, and yesterday we had a beautiful work by Dai Wei, a brilliant Chinese composer who lives down in New Jersey now, and various other fascinating figures. Great Haitian-American composer Daniel Bernard Romain kicked it off in Lockport a couple of months ago. This little series we're doing of these wonderful tiny desk pop-up concerts in advance of our large programming in the summer of 25 and 26. I'm just trying to find Juhi's little statement here. I'm not checking my phone. Generally, I don't do that in concerts, if at all possible. Here it is. I've got it. Oh, no, I've got it. No, this is her additional. I wanted to read you her additional statement. Anyway, so what we tasked our composers with was choosing a place, and we actually worked with Angelin to identify some really interesting and beautiful and compelling canal adjacent and canal related venues, and suggested some of these venues to the composers to go out and search subject matter and documents and history. And I must say Craig Williams in the back was a great help to some of our composers, and glad to have you and Helen with us, Craig. So Juhi was very much drawn, because of her interest in the environment and in nature, to this beautiful place, and really the dual meaning of refuge, that it's both a refuge for animals, plants, flora, and fauna, as well as for humans, and has at various points actually been a very literal place of refuge for humans, places like Howland's Island, etc. And this idea that for all of us who come and spend time here, it is a beautiful refuge from all of the difficult places in the world. So that was what really appealed to her, and that's why her text, while being very simple, really is very much inspired not only by the idea of the place, but also by certain documents that she found that kept referencing the word refuge and related things. So she sent me this lovely note. I'll just read you the central paragraph because I think it adds to what you have on the sheet in front of you. She said, I'm thinking aloud here. I'm an avid hiker, backpacker, and surfer, and during the hardest times in my life have always found a profound sense of solace outdoors. It's why the idea of a space preserved to be left to nature and the idea of wilderness as refuge resonated so strongly with me when you and I first spoke. With Montezuma specifically, the foundation of it as a refuge for native flora and fauna, and also secondarily as a place that people can experience that nature, I thought it was so special that a legal, quote, refuge for some species so easily becomes a spiritual, quote, refuge for others. It's also why I found the repeated use of the word refuge, I'm just feeling bad because this is exactly what I just told you. I stole her words, but she says them much more eloquently than I do. It's also why I found the repeated use of that word, refuge, in legal documents about the founding of Montezuma so evocative. It comes from a dry legal place, but carries a weight of meaning about what we value, how we try to protect it, and what that work can offer back to us in turn. So, so a beautiful, I think of our pieces, some of them have been a little bit more atmospheric or a little bit more abstract, but this one I think is fairly concrete and very direct. It's just kind of a fascinating exercise, I hope for all of you, but especially for all of us. We tend to work on a piece, play it once, and then go on to the next thing. So the idea of having worked on it, played it through a number of times already, and now be able to perform it for you and for capture so that we can use it toward amplifying the messages of our upcoming larger scale festivals is a really beautiful and interesting experience. As you know from encountering anything, the more you encounter it, the deeper your awareness of or understanding of it becomes, and the more insight you develop or the more you notice. And that's, I think, one of the wonderful things. And since the piece is so beautiful, I hope it won't bother anybody to hear it 3 times. So I should probably introduce our brilliant artists. We have these 2 wonderful singers, one of whom has just become incredibly tall since the rehearsal. Britt Hewitt, our high soprano, and Devony Smith, our high mezzo, are 2 incredible artists who are based in New York City, but as of this last spring began singing with our new music ensemble, which is called the Dogs of Desire, and they've done such a fabulous job that we've engaged them for the next 35 years to do this. I was just worried when I saw Britt towering over me. I thought, did she adjust her microphone? Were you okay with that? Because you suddenly were much taller. Yeah. You're okay? Okay, great. And they're both just such wonderful artists, and as you hear, sing with such beauty. And then our wonderful musicians from our violin section, Jamecyn, Morey, and Mitsuko Suzuki, 2 brilliant violinists. Dan, yes, yay for the violinists. Dan Brye from our viola section, Erica Pickhardt, our assistant principal cellist, and Mark Foster, our percussionist, all with us today. Yeah. So, and these musicians are so incredible. It's such a pleasure and an honor for me to be able to work with them. And as you can hear, it's a pretty straight ahead piece, so I'm not even sure they need a conductor at all, but it's very sweet that they let me conduct. Pretend to conduct whatever it is I'm doing. So did you want to retune, or did you tune? I never really asked if you had tuned or anything. You had tuned. How fantastic. Okay. But you're okay, huh? You're okay? Yeah? Okay. Are we ready to, I guess just, yeah, take a moment. You want to take a moment? You're good. Okay. Before we go on, are there any questions about the piece, about the orchestra, about the project for our singers or our instrumentalists, or anybody? I think in the next segment we'll have Joshua from the Bird Sanctuary talk to us a little bit about the world here, which obviously has very much to do with the inspiration for the piece. But are there any questions? I'll take him. Emily, do you have a question? No? Yesterday, Emily had most of the questions. Oh, which is your favorite? Emily's our executive director, our wonderful new executive director, Emily Fritz-Endres. We're very excited to have her with us. Yeah, which is my favorite bird? That's not very relevant, is it? Well, I was admiring the swans. Are they swans? Yeah, those are beautiful. Yeah, and I was sad not to be. I heard the white geese already landed on everybody's lawns, or not yet? No? Oh. Joelle was suggesting that she'd seen a lot of them, but no, my daughter is dating a very serious birder, so he was very excited to hear that we were coming here. He was just in Colombia with her, seeing 120 new species he'd never seen before. It was very exciting. Yeah. So yeah. Any other? Thank you for your question. I guess we'll go on. Yes, I'm getting the "Go on, David" sign. Good. So here's our second performance of the piece. Okay. think it's getting better. Is it getting better? Can you tell? It seems to be getting better. Yeah. I mean, it started great, but it's getting even better. Good. So Joshua, come on up and tell us, if you would, a little bit. Joshua, I gather, is a much-loved volunteer and expert here. And so if you would just, I think most of the audience are people who are well acquainted with the Audubon Sanctuary here, but I know that our people virtually aren't. So maybe give us a little bit of background, if you would.
All right. Yeah, so I'm stepping in for Chris Lajewski. He is the director here. He holds a phenomenal program. He's always setting up events. There's something here for all ages, generally through every month of the year. Give me 1 second. So Chris couldn't be here today, but I am here to speak for you for a minute. My name is Joshua. I am a volunteer ambassador. Montezuma Audubon Center is one of 33 centers of the National Audubon Society across the country. These are hubs for exploration, conservation, research, and action, allowing millions to discover and defend our natural world. Audubon's mission is to protect the birds and places they need for today and tomorrow. To do this, we work through the Western Hemisphere using science, advocacy, education, and on-the-ground conservation. Our members, partner, and supporters give Audubon an unparalleled wingspan that informs, inspires, and unites. We have a very diverse community in the conservation that always seems to take action. We believe in a world in which people and wildlife can thrive. Montezuma Audubon Center serves as a gateway for adults and school-age children to get involved in local conservation efforts and experience the wonder of the outdoors. We are open to the public year-round for educational programs and special events, community science projects, and habitat enhancement activities, along with birding tours. This is, as he said earlier, one of the most active flyways in the world, really. And we are extremely blessed with the fact that this is a stopover, and we get to see so many species of birds that are just not natural to this area, except for being on the flyway heading from one hemisphere to the other. So thank you, guys.
If you don't mind, I'm sure I have some questions. I have a bunch of questions. First of all, tell us what a master means. What does that mean? How does one become? You said you're a master? Oh, you didn't say that. I'm sorry. Maybe I misunderstood. Oh, an ambassador. Oh, an ambassador. An ambassador. So tell us, obviously this is a flyway, and I gather that early November is a wonderful time when a lot of bird species are in transit on their way. Tell us a little bit about the uniqueness of Montezuma, as opposed to the other. Who should we be looking for, or who flies through here? Can you give us a little detail, or yeah?
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, that's more up to the birders that are here today to tell you that. But we get a lot, especially this time of year. We're starting to see the waterfowl migratories coming through. The snow geese aren't quite here yet. You might see some in different areas, but generally right now you're going to see a lot of the Canadian geese, bunch of different duck species. Yeah, anything that you're seeing here is coming over right now. Everybody's heading south, and they're moving through.
And how much have, I get the sense that climate change has begun to change some of these migratory patterns, or certain birds I was hearing are actually choosing to stay longer or through the winter. Is that true, or?
It is. Even like we have our exhibit out front here with the sandhill crane. We hadn't seen sandhill cranes here, whatever, right, as far as I know. And now we actually have, and I could be wrong, but 7, I think, mated adults this year in Montezuma. So we're actually starting to get breeding pairs here. And that's just showing the different climate change, some for the better, some for the worse. And that goes along with any species. They have to change how they react to the world.
Wonderful. And I, just for anyone who may not know, who may not be in the room, and Angela, maybe you can you can tell me if I'm or Brian if I'm wrong. The incredible thing about the Montezuma Wetlands Complex, and it is vast from what I gather, is that there's a huge area that is the purview of the national government, right? And then there's another huge area that's the purview of New York State, and then in the middle there's this beautiful smaller tract. Is that right? Kind of in the middle or middle-ish, that belongs to the Audubon Society, essentially. That's pretty accurate, right? It's good enough, close enough. And of course, we're not too far from, we're sort of partway between Syracuse and Rochester, I guess, in terms of, for those people who may not have, know geographically where we are. But if you've ever driven down the 90 from Albany to Buffalo or Buffalo to Albany, you've seen that beautiful eagle statue, and that is just the sort of edge there, along the highway of one half or one part of the wetlands. And it's an incredibly, as you say, richly diverse natural habitat, which seems to be mainly inhabited, in addition to all the wonderful non-human animals, by birders primarily, some fisher people and hunting as well, some hunters as well. Yeah. So, but it's a fascinating area, and of course surrounded by these wonderful communities like Seneca Falls and Waterloo, and I guess we just went through, what was the little town we just passed through? Through Clive, yeah, as well, and not very far from Auburn and other communities like that. So a fascinating part of what we call in the eastern side of the state, Western New York, or middle central New York, I guess you'd call it, and very close to the beautiful Finger Lake region, which stretches out. The 11 lakes of the Finger Lakes stretch out to our south. And as I said, we've had a wonderful little couple of days here in the area. People are so kind and welcoming and friendly, and we've learned so much about just the geography and the communities that are here. So I'm very eager. I've gotten to know, as Brian mentioned, the Erie Canal Corridor very, very well, but I haven't really gotten to know south of the Erie Canal Corridor, so I'm hoping I can bring my wife back and we can go see the Finger Lakes and all that. But it is a beautiful, beautiful part of our state. Is there anything, Joshua, you wanted also to add, or anybody of the birding community, or I know we have many of the volunteers from this center here? Anything else to be added? No? All good? Any questions or issues or thoughts? Anybody? No?
David?
Musicians? Erica?
Thank you, Erica. You asked us to think of something to ask you, but instead I am going to answer a question we've had at every single one of these little pop-ups, including yesterday afterwards. What is it like to play a piece 3 times? And it is very much like it is to listen to it 3 times, because each time you hear different things that you hadn't yet noticed. And when we play a piece once, we often wish we could play it at least once more, maybe not 3, especially if it's an hour long.
Sometimes we don't wish to ever play it.
Not these. These we are happy to play at least 3 times, and each time we find something new in the piece that we try to express even better.
Yeah, and I actually have apropos that, and it's, you're not that many people in the room, but you're a wonderful group. But the minute we added people to the room, even though we have a wonderful tech crew working on sound, the sound had been so resonant this morning when there were no people in the room, and now with people in the room it's a little bit less resonant. So I might challenge Eddie and Dan, particularly Eddie, to maybe just slightly boost it to see if we can get that same kind of slightly wetter ambience without distorting anybody, because I think that's very magical. And invariably, it's a funny thing when we play concerts in Albany or in Troy at the beautiful, legendary Troy Savings Bank Music Hall, one of the great halls of the world. It sounds great with people in it, but the dress rehearsals are always even more beautiful because the resonance of the space is kind of uninterrupted. And as soon as people show up, we love people and we love having people, and we couldn't do any of what we do without people. But it's always interesting how the resonance, the acoustics really change and become much drier, because the clothing and everything is kind of just I don't want to say sucking up, is just sort of taking up some of the sound. Yes, so it's always a fascinating thing about acoustics in rooms. Yeah, so yeah, any other things? No singers? Anything? No.
I've always thought it was another microphone. I always thought it's fascinating, the experience of playing something 3 times. I am an avid lover of new music, and I see quite a lot of it and work frequently with composers, and I find that in experiencing something new, you only do it one time, really, and it sort of becomes ghostly in that way. You're not even sure if what you heard is quite accurate. The memory of what you heard is really accurate to what was on the page, and I think this experience is really unique because you get to really see, really hear if that was the true experience of it. And it is really true. You will notice different things throughout. We certainly notice different things and bring out different things in each iteration of the piece. So it's a special performance to have to do it 3 times.
And we really appreciate Brian and Angelin allowing us to do this, because for orchestras, usually we do it once and it's gone with a new piece. And I must say also as an homage to Juhi, this composer, and to our other 4 composers, all of these pieces are so rich and interesting and multifaceted and beautiful to hear that they really not only warrant multiple listenings, but they really welcome multiple listening. So we're very pleased to be able to do this, and we thank you all for coming. Anything else we need to discuss, or did you want to say something? Or? Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you. We're all so excited to be able to do it. Yes?
You know how long it took the composer to write?
I don't really know how long, but it's interesting. This piece, it was created for one of our Dogs of Desire concerts in the spring, and then reduced for this performance. And the Dogs of Desire project, the ensemble, is really about the intersection between popular culture and the grand tradition. And it's kind of like a little mini orchestra with drum set and keyboards and saxophones and 2 wonderful singers who don't sing in an operatic style for the ensemble. And so it's really about, it's a little bit sort of Gershwin inspired in terms of exploring, not trying to be pop music, but exploring the world of popular culture and making what we do, relevant to our own time and place. So we mainly commission young composers. We essentially only play commissioned works for the ensemble. And of the 5 composers we commissioned for that concert, I must say Juhi, without ever having actually heard the ensemble, I think we sent her some audio of it and such. And she's obviously got a very interesting aesthetic, as you can really tell from the drum set and the way the drum set gives a sort of interesting, not at all classical, very pop world feel to it, without in any way being glitzy. And Mark's doing it so elegantly and in an understated way. But of all the pieces on that concert, all of which were wonderful, hers really occupied this wonderful space that we're exploring between commercial music and what used to be called, I don't know, classical or art music or whatever. And that's really where we love to occupy the ensemble, and where these pieces really, I think, work wonderfully, because they don't sound like, for those of you who remember the new music of the 60s and 70s, some of it was pretty intractable and hard to listen to, and what I guess you'd call atonal or post-tonal. And all of these composers have sort of come back around in different ways to aspects of tonality. So I think her piece is very magical in the way it combines the beauty of the kind of traditional sound of the strings with the drum set, and then also with these very pure modern voices, which, if you know much about vocal work, very often singers who specialize in new music specialize in very old music, like medieval and early Baroque music, because there's a sort of purity to vocal production in those periods. Whereas when you get into the 19th century, and big, loud Italian opera, it requires a whole different approach to vocal production. So it's a very interesting world of that these 2 singers, who happen to also be brilliant opera singers, can occupy this world so magically. Yeah. Good. Yes? Yes.
Were they all for this ensemble?
Actually, 4 of them were originally for this ensemble, and Juhi's piece, because we liked it so much, we decided to have her recast it, so it was recast for this. But the other 4 were all original.
There was no percussion.
Oh, there were slightly different ensembles. We've had slightly different. For our road trip, we've been sort of adding and subtracting. Mark came in just for today. He wasn't on yesterday's show, and yesterday the singers actually weren't on because Dai Wei, the composer, is a singer, and so she wrote for herself. So we've been sort of subbing in and out different ensemble members. But It's essentially a string quartet plus added instruments, yeah. And it's, as you can hear with our wonderful audio and video team, of course, it sounds so rich and so beautiful and so voluptuous. In no way substitutes, as Brian said, for a full orchestra. Full orchestra is still a magical thing to hear, but it's amazing how rich and full and complete this small, tiny desk ensemble can be, yeah. Okay, so we're ready for our final play. And just before we do again, shout out to Angela and the Canal team and to Brian and to all of our wonderful tech support and our audio and video and our brilliant musicians and singers. Yeah. Someone was just asked. Yes. Yes.
I was just curious, for this final play, would it be okay if I got a little closer?
It's up to Derek. I think so, as long as it's not loud or... yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks so much for having us, and we look forward to coming back in the summer and being in the neighborhood again. Thanks. And thank you, Joshua. Much appreciate your comments. Thank you. wonderful rest of the weekend, and we'll hope to see you in the summer. Before. Thanks.
Bravo. And bravo. Well, I was every once in a while I was getting a little funny.